So, somebody made a correlation to last week's video, a Facebook group that had me as Hank Hill, which I was happy about that. If I'm going to be anybody, probably Hank Hill or maybe Boomhauer.
Yeah.
And you were Dale.
Yeah. I want to be the pocket sand guy.
I tell you what.
That's my role model. I haven't watched the show. I just like him.
Yeah, you wouldn't. If you watched the show, he'd probably freak you out a little bit. So yeah, we apparently are now synonymous with the King of the Hill show.
I'll take it. You can send royalties to my email address.
We'll probably more likely get sued for looking something like the people.
YouTube copyright strike incoming.
Yeah. Guys are calling in the airstrike right now. What we're talking about today is we had a couple people write in and ask us why we were doing a 347 and the 64 Falcon hardtop. Now, originally we were planning on doing the fender install on the 67 Mustang hardtop that we have, because it's got a cacked fender on the driver's side. The fenders are cheap enough now that I wouldn't spend the time trying to restore the fender. I would just go ahead and replace it. And so we moved away from that because right now we're probably at what, 35 degrees here in the studio?
Yeah,
the studio. Without any heat or AC, it would have been a miserable day trying to work on that fender. So real quickly, what I wanted to do is kind of cover what these guys asked about, is why we went 347 on the 64 Falcon hardtop. And frankly, the simple reason is I already have one.
Great episode.
Good night, everybody. We're done here.
Decisions made easy.
Decisions made easy. I have had this engine from Probe. Oh my gosh.
Since I've known you, at least.
Yeah, I got it when I was in Florida.
Okay, yeah.
So I've had it a while, like 2003, 2002, somewhere in there, I think.
I was in elementary school.
My mind was in elementary school. But I've had it since 2003 or so, in that time frame, and it has moved with me everywhere I've gone. I've never started it. The engine is still a bare block.
Yeah, short block. Yeah.
Short block, well, long block, because it's got...
Oh, yeah, long block.
Yeah, it's got the Edelbrock Performer RPM heads on it. It's got the block and all the rotating assembly inside of it. The cam's already in there, no lifters,
Yep.
no rockers or any of that kind of stuff, although I have them. But it's all there. I've got pretty much everything I need to do it, with the exception, I think I need to buy a set of lifters. It's been so long ago, I don't remember. But the point being that I do have a 347 small block. So that is one of the main reasons why I'm planning on going 347 in the 64 Falcon hardtop. But it brought up a valid point. When they asked that question, it got me thinking, well, if we weren't in the position of already having the 347, what would we do?
Probably keep the 260 and be smart.
Oh, come on, no. When have we ever been smart about things like that?
Well, yeah, that's why we're changing it.
Well, the 260 goes into Logan's 65 Ranchero, and we're going to be doing a 5-speed down the road with that car. We already have a 5-speed to go in this one for Modern Driveline, and then we're going to be doing another one with Logan's car. Now that the TKX has come out, I might contact the guys at Modern Driveline and upgrade to the TKX, because the general plan for that 347 is to go with a 347 and a Wyand supercharger setup on top of it, the 174 that they offer.
Yep.
Believe it or not, with a small block 302, the Wyand supercharger, and a Holley carburetor, it still clears the hood. Barely. I don't care about a lot, as long as there's enough.
Don't put a big wing nut on the air filter.
No big wing nuts. But it does clear out. And so we have enough room that we could even do what we were talking about doing a long time ago, is using the Torino Ram Air system on there.
The shaker hood.
The shaker hood with that. I hope it sounds like a P-51 Mustang.
I hope it sounds
that whine that they make when they go by? Yeah.
And it looks amazing with it.
It will look
I don't
really
care what
cool.
anybody says.
We've had people bitch about us wanting to do that. We have a Comet hood that we'll do the modifications to put on the Falcon, but we're getting off topic a little bit here. So my thing is, what should you do? What should you run on your car? And honestly, if you're going for mileage and performance, I would say probably stick with a small block 289. If you're driving that sucker every day,
there's no need to put a stroker kit in it if you're driving it every day.
No.
All the stroker kit's going to do is put more wear and tear on the engine and make the rotating assembly work harder. You're going to get more power, but you don't really need it if you're not going for performance.
And I mean, what could you do? I mean, you could even do a 5.0. You could take a roller 5.0 and put that in there as well. Your mileage is actually probably going to come up a little bit because a lot of guys don't really think about the fact that anytime you rollerize your valve train, any of your rotating assembly that you can get away with rollerizing or putting a synthetic fluid through it like an oil, your performance level is going to get better and your gas mileage is going to get better because the rollers are taking out lost motion and friction.
I can get decent fuel economy out of my 66. When it was still driving, it was a roller 302 with a dead cylinder and it still got 22 miles to the gallon.
And that was with a C4.
Yeah. Rolling a C4 and typically doing 80 to 90 down the highway.
Knowing what I know about that car now.
Sketchy issue. Normally with 2 sweaters and a jacket on. And
yeah, because you didn't have a heater in it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Car life.
So I think probably a 289, 302 small block, roller cam, and you don't even really need to do a roller. To be honest with you, you could do a flat tappet cam with a 5-speed or probably an automatic overdrive, although I would probably tend to stay 5-speed for mileage because it has less parasitic horsepower loss in it.
Unless you can afford a lockup converter.
Right. I mean, I would go with that setup, and you would probably get about, like you say, maybe 22, 23 miles to the gallon on the highway. Now I'm going to move on to the 331. This is your next step up in performance. I would say that probably you had said that it would be good for, like, if you're doing endurance racing, road racing, that kind of thing.
If you're looking for performance, but also longer term reliability versus a 347.
So we know there's going to be a lot of arguments about that. So put your comments in the section below. Do you want to do a 331 and why? Or do you want to do a 347 and why?
The why part is important.
Well, I mean, you're splitting a lot of hairs in a lot of directions because I don't really think that your longevity, this is a personal opinion, by the way. I don't really honestly think your longevity is going to be that much better on a 331 than a 347. I don't think that your rod throw is going to create that much more wear in a 347. I know guys that are getting over 100,000 miles with a 347 small block.
Yeah.
And I know guys with 331s that are having all kind of wear problems. And I think a lot of it probably has to do with who and how your engine is put together.
And how you're using it.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I mean, you could have a 347 that's naturally aspirated, and it just, every day is a picnic for it. And you can make it go 100,000 miles. But you can have the same 347 and put 5 pounds of boost to it, and it lasts about 2 minutes.
Don't say that.
That one. Forgot, we are boosting that one.
That's the plan, is to boost that.
That was get about 10. So
you know, you're a depressing human being.
Take that down to 1 minute.
I'm going to pour coffee on me. It's getting cold up.
I know, mine too.
Anyway, I think that the longevity issues that people talk about with the 347 are probably not as horrific now as they were. One of the big things you always hear guys talking about with 347 is, oh my gosh, you're going to have a problem with it burning oil because of the oil ring being right there at the wrist pin.
Yeah, the wrist pin goes through the landing for the oil. And
I think that a lot of the companies have actually done a lot to get rid of that issue.
Yeah, they've fixed that a lot with wrist pin clips.
Yep.
And just general location of it.
Right, they've changed locations on it so that it's not really big an issue. I cannot remember on the probe engine I have where that's at. I don't know if it's got the ones that are a problem or not. The dark part of me wants to pop the crank out of it, pull the pistons out and see what we have, and maybe possibly if we need to get a different set of pistons. But the amount of miles that that car is going to actually see on a weekly is abysmally small.
Yeah, and it's really not going to be pushed hard.
No, it's not going to be pushed hard. I mean, we will push it, you know. I'm not going to not. If I've got a car with a supercharger and a good sounding cam in it.
Maybe we should use another analogy rather than pushing it.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered that.
Just crossed my mind.
You know, you're just
Debbie Downer.
Debbie Downer today. What is it, with the snow or something?
It's got my Christmas spirit all riled up.
That's a lot funnier for me than it is for the rest of you guys, because I know how I feel.
Inside joke.
He feels about Christmas. But I don't think that's the biggest issue. I don't think that the rod issue is what it was 20 years ago or 10 years ago or even 15 years ago. I think that has become less of a problem, but it's one of those saws that's out there that guys always hack. They'll always grab that and say, 347 is going to have oil in problems. And I'm like, no, it doesn't, because they've gone in and worked on that to make it a more viable platform. 331 doesn't have those issues because the piston setup's a little bit different on the 331. But I hate to say this, dude, I'm a cubic inch guy.
Yeah. Well, you can't beat displacement.
Yeah, you can't beat displacement on those things. It's good. I mean, you got 347 cubic inches. Yeah, it's only 16 more.
Well, it's 16 more.
It's still 16 more. What's better than 331 cubic inches?
347.
347.
332.
Now that goes. So that brings me to the other point, because somebody did bring up the thing, well, why don't you just put a Windsor in, like a 351 Windsor? And on the blush of it, I love a 351 Windsor. They're gas pigs, but they are a tremendous powerhouse engine with the right cylinder head.
Yep.
I remember with the 67 fastback that we did, we dynoed it at 428 horsepower at the flywheel with a set of Edelbrock Performer RPM heads.
Yep.
They were a little bit worked, but they weren't like overly done. And that was without any kind of crazy intake. That was just a standard high-rise dual plane intake, Holley carburetor, and it had a roller cam set up in it, and about, I think it was 9.5 to 1 compression ratio. We're running 428 horsepower out of that engine. And there's a lot of guys that aren't getting that out of the 427 Windsors, the ones where they'll do the stroked out kit on them.
Yeah.
Those engines are okay in early Fords. If you're doing a 60 to 65 Falcon, it becomes much more of a nightmare simply from the fact that headers are an issue. Real estate in that engine bay is problematic at best.
Yeah, fitment is really where it draws the line.
It does, and it even becomes a problem with the 347 and the 331 because of headers. A lot of guys will say you can put the hypo manifolds on them, but we've run into a couple of cases where the hypo manifolds are actually causing interference issues with the steering box and other things, so you have to be very cognizant and very careful about what you do, possibly running something like a Ron Morris engine relocator kit, so you can pick the engine up a little bit or drop it a little bit, depending on what you need to do for performance area. But headers on the Falcon are a problem. Now, if you're doing a Mustang,
yeah, way more support.
Way more support, and you can do the 351 Windsor-based engine in a 65, 66, and not have the issues of not having headers for it.
Yeah, you're just going to cry when you have to do spark plugs.
Yeah, it's going to suck. Yeah. It's not going to be fun.
It sucked on the 67. And
yeah,
that had better engine bay for it.
And yeah, and it really did. I mean, the engine bay is a little bit more open than a 65.6 Mustang, but it was a pain in the butt. That's another car like the Falcon that I would consider, probably would rather stay down in the 347, 331 range and do some kind of power adder like a supercharger.
Yeah. Or
maybe do nitrous so that you can, figure out just how bad the bottom end on your car is.
Exactly where the weak point is.
You always talk about that. Yeah. Drag racing is the best way to find the weakest point in your drive line. Same thing with road racing. If you want to find a weak spot in your chassis, take the car road racing for a few weeks. It'll tell you where it's at.
You'll find the crack.
You'll find a crack somewhere. So that's really the bottom line on it, folks. I mean, we sped through that, but it's flipping freezing in here in the studio. But really, that's it. It's going to be up to you, as we say, what's your 90%? Yep. What do you do with your car 90% of the time? And within that 90%, what do you want to spend? If you've got access to a roller 351 Windsor block,
and you don't mind mashing your fingers to work on it, definitely go for it.
But I mean, how often are you going to change the plugs?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be changing them that often if you set the engine up.
But if you're racing, you are going to be in the engine bay a whole lot more. Yeah.
You're going to be changing the plugs.
So
you're going to be messing with it.
It's really, what are you trying to do with it?
Yeah, I mean, it always boils down to your 90%. And like I said, my 90% is I got a 347 sitting on an engine stand. I'm going to use it.
Yeah, and if you're racing really a stock block 302, you can get 500 out of it. If you need more, that's real. 500 is where it starts to explode.
Well, yeah, you start running into parts problems in as far as
it starts splitting down the center.
Yes, we'll see some pictures of that.
Yeah.
But I've seen guys with supercharged 306s that are just stomping and storming for miles and miles and miles until the guy finally gets to that point where the engine just says, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias, mi amigo. Since we were in Mexico last week. So I don't know. I mean, I look at it, I would still do the 347. And the Falcon chassis, the 347 for power output and ratio, I would say is probably the best bang for the buck.
Yeah.
You get a little more power out of it than you do out of a 331 because you just got more cubic inches to play with. As long as you do the right set of cylinder heads and the right supercharger on it, it's going to run like a dime. It's going to just run like a cheetah. Is Cheetah the fastest one?
I don't know.
Cheetah. Let's just say it's the cheetah's the fastest animal on the planet.
Yeah.
It runs like the fastest animal on the planet.
I want to say like emu or something. But that wouldn't be a cool. That wouldn't be a cool car.
Looks like an emu. Oh. I'm sorry. I'm just having a mental picture of the emu running with a 351 Windsor on its back. Like the Roo, the old Subaru. I still think that's pretty darn cool. The Aussies had it made. I had that one with the Subaru package. But yeah, I would still say 347. I would do 347 regardless. To answer the question of these guys that asked, I mean, I answered it in the comments, but in a general sense, 347 is my pick of the litter on those, especially if I could build a 347 today as opposed to building it 20 years ago. Because a lot of the problems that we were experiencing back in the day are gone. So the 347 is going to offer you everything you need from a performance aspect that you need for a street car or a performance car or kids screaming in the background. Well, I guess that's really it. So we basically said that if it's a Falcon or a 65.6 Mustang, 347 small block. If I'm doing a 67 Mustang, I'm going to go 351 Windsor. That's just the way it is. Anything up till about 1970, I'm going to go Windsor, and in 1970, all bets are off. I'm running a Cleveland. You can argue with me all day long. If you want to argue about Cleveland versus Windsor, we can argue about that too. That's it. We're done.
And now the kids have stopped screaming.
Of course, they'll go in the house now and have hot chocolate because
my work here is done.
Their work here is done. All right, you see a list going up next to me, either over here or over here. That is a list of our supporters on the Patreon account. These guys are putting their money where their mouth is. They believe in the show enough that they're actually supporting us on a monthly basis. At the $10 a month level, you get monthly meetings with me on Zoom. We talk, we have fun, we go over what we're going to be doing in the near future. We're also going and doing tech Q&A with the guys on there, so it's a lot of fun for everybody. If I don't get you an answer immediately right there on the spot, I will get you an answer in the next couple of days if I can go and talk to the people I need to talk to. Also, subscribe to the channel. We're going on our march again for 100,000 subscribers. We're at about 87,000 subscribers right now, so we're getting close. So do a push for us, folks. Go out and find people you know that are into the car stuff. Have them subscribe to the channel. It's going to do you absolutely no good until we can figure out how to notify you. Because they got rid of the email stuff. All us old guys, we're checking our email every week for our stuff coming in from Autorestomod. They did away with that.
Sales flyers, coupons.
Good. Ad campaign with New Balance.
Yeah. Cargo shorts.
Baggy blue jeans.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that. We should start selling Autorestomod New Balance tennis shoes and baggy cargo pants.
Autorestomod Dad Edition.
Wait, I am a dad. It's not as funny as I was thinking it was. So that's it. Do all I don't even know where we're at now. Do all those things, and then finally, do me a favor. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. Love each other. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time on
Autorestomod,
where we will be putting a fender on a 67 Mustang hardtop. Kylie's actually coming out to see us too on that Saturday. Cool. He says he's going to try to make it over to see the fender go on.
Cool.
I think he's suspicious of whether we're actually sold the car out from underneath it.
We're just parting it out. We're not actually a YouTube studio. We're a chop shop.
Want to buy some parts for a Mustang?
Almost new fender.
No, that one right there next to you is a new fender.
Oh, that's what that is.
That's the monolith. I'm actually tempted to keep the box just because it's big.
Yes.
I don't know what we use it for. Jackson will probably go to sleep in it.
Remember
a while back he did that?
Yeah.
He went to sleep in a box. One of our guys on the crew, Jackson, actually took a nap in one of these boxes.
He's like a cat. He just loves boxes.
He does.
Like a safe space.
I need my safe space.